Show will begin momentarily.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
Hello, welcome to Super Happy Dragon Lucky, the Dragonchain Updates show. Welcome. This is episode City 9. That is 0xc9. It's hex. And it is the 202nd episode. So reminder, nothing on the show is financial advice. And please stay tuned after the updates for an AMA. I'll try to get through the updates pretty quick. This week, Dragonchain Updates, the Super Happy Dragon Lucky shows distribution. Last week's episode created 390 lot. There were 3 questions for 47 lot each. There was 1 featured post for 47 lot. The host received 47 lot, and Dragonchain received 143 lot. We go to next to DENDAO.Social updates. The June 2023 layer creation process, that is the community layer creation process built into the system. The commitment phase starts today. Per a DENDAO vote a bit ago, the winners will be the number 1 layer proposal as ranked by unique voters, and the number 1 layer proposal as ranked by Lure Committed. And it could be the same, and it often in the past has been when it's been arranged like this. It can be the same proposal, so you get 1 layer created in that case. All commitments of Lure to participate should be made by next Tuesday, June 20 at 10 Eastern and 1400 UTC. Also related to Den.Social, Coffee with Den this week will be at 900 Eastern, 1300 UTC on Wednesday, tomorrow. And the topic is privacy tools and decentralization. So that should be interesting. And then DENDAO updates will be, there's a DENDAO meeting, a weekly call that will be Thursday, June 15th at 1500 Eastern, 1900 UTC. Watch for the post in the DENDAO layer for the agenda and a link to join live. There should be some interesting stuff about, everything going on in the world and how we can, make Den be more useful to everybody. You don't have to turn a camera on if you want to join live to ask questions verbally. Otherwise, you can ask questions in the post or in the live chat, whatever makes sense. Now we'll go to the World Blockchain Roundtable update. Make sure you watch and share last week's episode on artificial intelligence. It was very interesting on how artificial intelligence and blockchain meet, and how the 2 technologies can be useful to the world, and also how they can be dangerous. Episode 108 will air live this Thursday, June 15 at 1100 Eastern, 1500 UTC. The topic is blockchain in healthcare. Make sure you leave a blockchain related question or subject to discuss related to that topic. Or if you need anything else, there was a rule that you can ask generic questions unrelated to the topic as well, if you want to. So that's all the updates. So we'll go straight to the AMA with no breaks. So we'll refresh the page, make sure we get all of the votes in for which questions to ask. And I'm going to pull it up on my screen as well. So here we go. Let's see here. So first question is from Alexans. Do you think the situation of the SEC charging other large companies or projects, for example, Binance, Solana, Coinbase, etc., in the crypto environment benefits the prosecution against Dragonchain. Together, it creates more strength. And I think I understand what you mean. I mean, I do think that it benefits all of us, frankly, because a lot of the groups that were sitting on the sidelines hoping that the crocodile doesn't eat them now realize that it's all a matter of time, that they'll just be the last to be eaten. So even the projects that weren't, that haven't been called out or attacked, now I think see the writing on the wall. Number one. On top of that, all of the evidence, as can be seen today, and again, it's not even processed yet, but kudos and God bless all of the people at Ripple and all the people in the supporting community. Mr. Huber, amazing research by him. Also, John Deaton, amazing. You imagine the amount of work that is taken to get the info and some of the actions that he's gotten out in place is amazing. And he's not even on, I don't know, of course, but I don't think any of them are actually on the official Ripple team. They are representing the purchasers of Ripple. I was one back in the day, right? So you have to think about it, all those people and all that info and what is coming out as we speak this morning, and the good people on Twitter and elsewhere that are actually combing through those emails from Commissioner Hinman, which, there's already obvious evidence that, and it pre-existed, but it even tends to back a lot of the evidence that he was bribed essentially to do some of these things, and as are a lot of the people, regulators in all through the government. I guarantee there's a lot of illegal activity going on when there's so much money at risk with the banks and the VCs and everything else. That they're paying a little bit to make a lot elsewhere, and that's what they did. Billions were created or were realized with only 15 million, I think it is, to Hinman, and who knows what the other commissioners or people who are in that regulatory body have been paid either directly by JP Morgan or by lawyers of other projects. It's just something that happens, and it's disgusting, and it's a beautiful thing that Ripple has gotten that out there. I guarantee to you, if they hadn't, that Dragonchain would have, because that was on our list. If those weren't made public, that we were going to go after them. It's already in some of our in some of the dance that's already happened. So there's a lot more to come out, I'm sure. And we're essentially it's like lifting that veil on we as citizens or slaves get to see so little of what actually happens in the ruling class. And essentially, this is actually surprising that we're seeing any of this because there's so much bad that has been going on behind the scenes. So anyway, yes, together more strength, and that's what we've said all along, and that is what we hope we'll be able to get to. Where, look, we might have competitors, but more often than not, those competitors are focused on different things than we are, and I'd rather have a competitor than have the government pick and choose some monopoly just because someone went to the right cocktail party. So anyway, great question, Alexon. So next questions. I am. This is a Den question. I'm wondering about Den's future and revenue to pay its own way as a social media platform. Examples: do you see a day when the lot that Den owns and the Matter earnings from the public layers pays Dragonchain for support and maintenance, or do you see in the future the DENDAO votes and approves a process where let's say 1, 2, or X% of the daily matter goes to the DAO to pay for DEN's support and marketing. This assumes a matter value of 50 or $100. Irrespective of the economy, I think we can still answer some of this. And then DEN question: can you speak to DEN becoming a standalone platform in which it pays for its own support, maintenance, and new functionality implementations? Absolutely. So, and I think the thing here, and maybe we should talk on the DENDAO call about this, probably would be really valuable, that there are, we can look at industry and find a number of ways that it would be possible. You could go the charity organization route, where something like Wikipedia, where maybe it'll pop up on at the top of the page that Dave really wants you to donate. That you get so much value out of DEN, something like that, right? There could also be something like you mentioned, where the mining itself would go to that. There could be some level of participation in the, maybe something could be cooked into the layer creation process that would help this. And then, we would hope that somehow we could, how would you say, an advertiser, for example, it would still fit within the philosophical model and the working model of content-based advertising, where you can't just pop an ad in the middle of the content. You have to either pay someone to create some content or create content inside of your own organization and then come in and boost it. And if it turns out to be spammy, or literally an ad that I don't want to see in the, let's say, the automobile layer or something, then it'll get voted down. It'll actually cost you a lot more, and it won't upset any of the people who shouldn't be seeing that ad. So you will be greatly incentivized to place an ad that is fitting and meaningful and content rich, let's say. And it could be a review, it could be anything, right? And if we did that and we made a better, I guess what you would call an on-ramp to it, but it would be essentially where I could come in and brand new, I wouldn't have to worry about generating matter on my own, and I wouldn't have to worry about going and buying matter. I could just put in my credit card, purchase matter, purchase the ad. You can run ads for lengths of time, and with that purchase, that maybe DEN for a convenience fee, for one thing, to pay for the merchant stuff anyway, you're going to have to charge a fee, and why not charge some other margin to actually make money? There was another suggestion by a friend of the project who's had us on their podcast several times to make more premium content, and we've spoken at length about that. We think we have a pretty good design on how it could fit in, where content creators can create premium content. They can create subscriptions and the like. And it's interesting because if you work in anything about the tokens and the value of the utility tokens that were mined, I do think that we will need some form of a behavior-based liquidity pool. And again, for anyone listening, we haven't created this. And if it is created, it would have to be created in some way that the lawyers would say, okay, and it probably wouldn't be DEN or Dragonchain doing that. But the design is there, and I know how it would work. And there are some details that can be fine-tuned, of course, but the fact that you could control what is the, and I don't say control, I shouldn't say control. It's more that the network itself, the algorithm, much the way that the algorithm controls which content bubbles up, depending upon what layers and people you subscribe to, that same algorithm could then affect someone who is not for example, someone who's not a regular high reputation, as judged literally by the objective algorithm, would have less advantage. They would be able to, it would cost them more to interact with the external economy and it would be the economy by which the DENDAO liquidity would point to, instead of pointing to the Uniswap, for example, liquidity pools. So there's a lot there, and there's an answer in that mix, and it's probably needs to be some phased approach, but it definitely, if you ask me, it definitely needs to be a community answer. It needs to be something, not that, Joe says, oh, here's what we're going to do, boom, there it is. It needs to be, you think about a Hyperion frequency, IM4AM, Oxons, all the people who are using the platform need to kind of weigh in, come in and participate, and tell us how we can do this. I mean, it might need to be something that's bootstrapped, where everyone is helping to pay for the hosting. But right now, I mean, I will say Dragonchain went through a few months back a pretty massive refactor in our hosting environments. And we're still doing some of that, and some of it has been delayed just because we've been pretty busy. But essentially, it's significantly less expensive to run these systems than it was before. And we did that on purpose. And there might be some need to do some, you think about it, here's another idea, some federation of the hosting, which is already built into the design. We already knew for some communities you would need some level of federation so that they could host on their own. That's one thing. The other big thing would be, if there's some type of decentralized hosting, that's much harder to put in place, be more expensive to do, but still makes sense. And I don't know, there are a lot of other options that could work. We also could start selling the white label of communities. That is, if and sorry, I'm just like brainstorming here solo, but if for example, and we've had the inkling that this is a potentially valuable approach, that if you have some group who needs a well-contained community that might not even, it could be a startup that doesn't have the budget even to have 24/7 moderation like you would need on Discord or Telegram, and which you do. Whereas in Den you don't, because your community is incentivized to police itself and to act well, right? So potentially we could create a mobile app that would, as a startup, I could essentially white label a mobile app and configure it just to point to my layer, and essentially put a download for all of my users, and it would all be built into the system, that they would just do the Den things, but they might not even know it's Den. And it could be even a private layer, so that the rest of Den doesn't even see it. So there's a bunch of cool stuff you could do there, that all of which would result in some form of revenue. Again, it's behavior marketplace AI is what Den is, and that should be something sellable, given that, instead of paying this amount for someone overseas to or in all the time zones to maintain your community and hope that they get it right and hope they don't, these people, sometimes it's sensitive stuff, versus using a AI that's trained on your own people. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, great question. And I do think that has to be a goal, and I don't know if it's long-term or medium-term. It's not going to happen overnight, of course, but we probably need to have a plan together ASAP. So we might not be able to execute all points yet, but we can start figuring it out, or even testing it. Would this work, right? So maybe if you can join the call this week, and if not, we'll at least get it in the agenda, and you can at least ask the question so we can discuss it there. So, and reach out to anybody else that might be might have valuable input on that. So, okay. Anyway, that is all of the AMA. Sorry, it was longer than I expected. This week we have featured content. What is going on with the Reddit blackout and community shutdown? Is it an opportunity for Den? Yes. So on the one hand, and I've not had time this week, I wonder, and maybe this is another subject for DENDAO on the call, that what we really need is to give to whoever might have network access. LinkedIn. Maybe you already have the app, and you can ping the developer of the app. And this would be, what is it? Reddit is fun, Golden Platform. I think Bacon Reader. Those were two of the big ones. There's also one called Alpha, I think, that I've never used. I used to be a Redditor. Thank God I'm no longer. It turned to, I'm not going to go into it. It turned pretty nasty way back a few years ago, and I pretty much stayed off of it. But and I'm going to sum it up. I don't know precisely if this is everything about what's going on, but essentially they were changing their API, or at least the access to their API. So Reddit is a system that has a web interface, and they have their own app. But before they had their own app, they essentially had a lot of other apps that would use the API to arrange the Reddit info, the conversations better than you could get on a website. So a lot of people, including me, would use the apps, the third-party apps, far more than any of the official Reddit stuff. But what it led to is the fact that they can't feed ads to those. And again, Den has solved this because all of our advertising isn't ads, it's content. I think we even have it in a white paper that any sufficiently targeted ad shouldn't be considered an ad by the viewer. That it's essentially something that they should want to consume as content, right? That's, by the way, the very best ad that you could have. And there are rare occurrences, very successful when it happens, when product makers or businesses use that method to advertise to their communities. I mean, it tends to create really loyal, tight, solid, and lucrative communities for these businesses. So that's what Den is based on. Reddit doesn't have that, so they can't feed ads to all of the people, which I don't know the numbers, but I imagine it's a significant portion of Reddit users that were using these third-party apps. So what have they done? They've essentially made it, and again, I don't know the details, but I saw some numbers last night, I think, that kind of surprised me, that based upon the way they are going to open access to those APIs for these existing apps, some of the apps, and it must be by view or call or something, that some of these apps are going to see upwards of $10 or $20 million in costs. Now, if that's to be believed, it might be exaggerated. I have no idea, but that's pretty crazy for an app developer. Many of which, I think they have paid apps, but typically it's not a subscription. It's they take a payment. Now you can use the premium app. I don't know. It seems pretty crazy, but they're doing it to block out all of those other sources to get to the content, so that you have to go to Reddit so they can feed you the ads, so they can see the revenue. And the reason I love this subject to talk about as featured content is thank you, Alexons again, is because Den at its fundamentally was designed to avoid these types of issues. That is, if you look at the DENDAO, we have 3 sections of votes based on context, and each of those is broken down further. That there is the founder vote, which primarily is me, some of the other team members that have been involved in creation of Den through these many years, and all the criticism of, why are you guys creating this? It sucks and stupid and whatever else. All those great opinions that, we have the founder vote. Now, let's say someone came in, if that's all it was, because that's all Reddit is. Someone comes in and buys our company or buys our project, that essentially things like this will happen. The things that the users have has on Reddit or on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitter, there's a very psychological human feeling of ownership, even though there is no control. And even if it's not equity ownership, it's just that they don't have any ability other than bitching to control what happens in the end, right? Now at Den, obviously, yeah, you can take to the networks to complain about something we do, but more importantly, if you are a creator, you are objectively competing with other creators to obtain weight, to obtain it's not reputation even, it's the ability to help govern the platform, which includes the formula, all the algorithms, all of even things like community guidelines. I mean, you guys have control there. There's also the community owner portion, which is the lore focused vote. So you essentially have a creator focused vote, a community creator or community maintainer focused vote, and then a founder vote. So the creators and the leaders of the communities on Den can directly outvote the founders pretty significantly. And then there's even token portions of those. So it's an interesting piece where, and I saw what happened with Dig. If you want to look back at history, I saw what happened previously, and I think it's already happened twice before with Reddit, where they had fallout because their corporate masters wanted to do X to improve the ability to make money with the platform, and the community, blew up. And this is another one of those things where the community does a big blackout, where okay, we're just going to shut off all these communities, and it's a protest. Which does have some value, right? The real protest would be leaving. So coming to Den would be the right thing. I mean, potentially, now we get to the opportunity portion, that if anybody has access to any of these apps, or if you're willing to go and tweet, find out where it is, on Twitter, directly through the app stores, you can communicate. Some of them will listen to different platforms more than others, and I have no idea why. If one of these apps has an account that is particularly conversant, or where they will actually respond to you on Twitter or on Reddit, by all means, please go in there and hit them on this. That we are willing to open up our API, fully documented. It's already in process. And let them create the mobile app, right? And more, I would be willing myself to propose, and it'd be a DENDAO vote, but why not say that we would plug in some way for them to monetize that more readily, whether it's in mining or whether it's in fees for the use, that you would pay a Matter fee to have the premium app. Wouldn't you? I would freaking do that. It'd be amazing, right? So stuff like that would be crazy, amazing opportunities. And there are at least 3 third-party apps that I know of. I'm sure there are more than that, but it's not even like we would have to go to one. We might go to the smallest one, and it would be amazing. I mean, all of those Reddit apps are pretty simple to use, and they a lot of them, being as it is threaded, would probably plug in relatively directly with Den. I mean, obviously there'd be some extra screens they'd need to make, and different voting widgets, of course. But yeah, anyway, huge opportunity, I think. So get out there and try. I have it on my list to try to, but I don't know if I'll have time to get to it. And frankly, it might be even better if it came from community, but we'll talk about it on the DENDAO call. I know that. So we'll get that added to the agenda too. All right. So that was it. Thanks again. Featured content and the AMA makes me think maybe the featured content should be you could theoretically get credited for the AMA and the featured content. I don't know if we do that. I can't remember. Sorry about that. And in closing, make sure you watch us again, Super Happy Dragon Lucky, next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 1500 UTC. Make sure you watch the World Blockchain Roundtable Thursday at 1100 Eastern, 1500 UTC. Get some Dragonchain and Den merch. Follow Dragonchain, Real Denizens, and Jojo Rowe on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Den.Social. Contribute, if you are able, to the Dragonchain Legal Fund at legalfund.dragonchain.com. It is super important, and I am confident that good things are coming. It's just I wish we could spend that energy building instead of defending. But it is as it is, and we live in the free world supposedly. But we'll see how it all goes. I'm confident we'll win. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share, please. Thanks so much. Bye.
Now, more than ever, our data is at risk. Our supply chains are in jeopardy. Our systems are broken, and businesses feel powerless. Dragonchain gives you a different way, a safer way, a better way, and you have power over your data. Dragonchain gives you proof in an untrusted world. Build now at dragonchain.com, America's blockchain.